And welcome back, guys. So what prompted this video was actually being back in the famous Spiegel tent for the Melbourne Comedy Festival, doing the Dummies show again. So we actually premiered the Dummies, Don't Mess with the Dummies, that me and two other girls created. We premiered that 2 years ago to like the Melbourne Fringe just gone by, and just thinking back that we've been doing this show for like a bit less than 2 years, it got me started thinking about, like, because it's been that long, I was just like, oh wow, it's actually been a solid chunk of time since we first started performing this show, and it made me start to think about the kind of things that I have learned over time performing this like kids family comedy show. And so today's video I want to chat about some of the things that I've learned performing this show so far. So also, just to address, there is probably a little rainbow, some rainbows maybe on my face or somewhere, I can't tell where it is. It's just from my like window, it's coming in, it's kind of pretty. Hope it adds to the aesthetic of this video. Who knows. So number one, so because the show Don't Mess with the Dummies is based on clowning, when I was first making the show and I was first getting into clowning and learning about how that works on stage, I actually learned a whole new skill set. Clowning on stage is really different to performing circus, because the whole point of clowning is you get really good at connecting with your audience. So because you want to be able to pay attention to how the audience essentially reacts to what you're doing on stage, because your aim as a clown is to make them laugh. You want to find the thing that's funny for them, because sometimes what you think is funny doesn't always get a laugh, or it doesn't always, like, the joke doesn't always land. And so when you're clowning on stage, you get really good at paying attention to audience members' reactions. So you're trying a joke, or you're trying something funny that you think of at the time on stage, and at the same time you're also paying attention to how the audience reacts. So if they laugh, you're like, wow, that worked. And it's like that thought process of, oh wow, that worked, I'll remember that for next time. Or if they don't laugh, it's like, oh, that didn't work, won't do that again. So it's very much this like learning process of learning to be constantly like paying attention to the audience and what you're doing. So that's like probably one of the biggest things that I've learnt since creating this show and performing it, is that like it's very different to like other type of like circus performing compared to clowning, which is different. The second one is that clown and stage makeup is so different to what you think it would actually look like. I'll post a little photo here, but like even my makeup, like over time, because I didn't really get taught this at like, even at like Circus University, I didn't get taught very much about like how clowning makeup can be slightly different to normal makeup, or even just like stage makeup compared to normal makeup. And the other thing is, like, I've learned and I've evolved over time since starting this show about what works well for this kind of makeup. So like for us girls, we do a lot of white underneath our eyes, and we do white underneath our eyebrows and around our lips to really help make our expressions stand out a lot more, because when we're on stage, like so much of our performance is based off like our faces and the reactions that we're making. So that's like super important that we like highlight those areas of our face. And that's, I guess, a big difference that I've noticed over time and that I've learnt over time that's super important. So the next thing that I've learned over time is that I've become so much better at receiving and being open to criticism and feedback. because our show is like based around clowning and we're always trying to improve our show, we often do like notes after a show. Sometimes they'll be short, sometimes they'll be a bit longer if we have our like boss / director there. And it's just like, it's a skill that you learn over time, is that being like, knowing that it's just about improving the show, and you have to learn not to take that personally. You're like working on making sure that I do that, because it's very easy to like slip back and forget that it's about like the show and it's about like the business of the show and not like you as a person. Yeah. Number 4, this is kind of a bit more of a general one, but I've learned over time that it's nice to be like nice to your venue staff, and not just that, but like chat to them and get to know them, because things are so much more fun when you're like in the venue and you're like prepping for your show and you're like chatting with them, and I feel like you have so much more fun than if you were to like not chat with them. And you get to meet like so many new people because we're in a different like venue all the time for different events, and it's so nice when we like get to know them and we have like a lot of fun like joking around with them and things. Number 5, so it's been really interesting doing a clowning show, because I've actually found that I used to think that there was like such a thing as like kids humor and adult humor, but actually in our show sometimes all of that humor like crosses over. So like the jokes, they don't just hit like the kids, they hit like the adults or the grandparents that come to our show, and it's like, I forget that. And it's something that I've learned over this 2 years, is that sometimes other things will also make adults laugh even when they're not expecting it. So we have, spoiler alert, in our show we have this bit where we climb inside our sleeping bags and we pretend that they're puppets and they're like singing to a song, and for some reason parents love this part of the show. Like, they absolutely love it. We get so many comments like after our show of parents coming up to us and being like, oh my gosh, I loved the sleeping bags in the show, like they were so funny. And it's like kids are just like mesmerized by it and they love it as well. And we, like making the show, we didn't expect that bit to be funny, and it's a consistent part of the show that hits really well with both like the adults and the children. Now the next couple points are kind of more about like stuff that I've learnt touring and doing a show that are a little bit different to like the actual like clowning show itself. So I guess the next point that I've learnt over the years is that just experiencing some of the biggest like fringe festivals in the world, so Edinburgh and Adelaide Fringe, 2 of the biggest fringe festivals in the world, and getting to do them with this show was so incredible. And I guess I learned how to be a performer at those festivals and events, and I learned how to survive those long periods of performing and what it was even like to just be at those festivals, because that in itself is such an experience. And that kind of leads me on to my next point, which is being on tour at those festivals. I also learned how I had to like stay fit and how I managed myself when I was on those tours so I could be like functioning at my best. So like getting enough sleep, doing a bit of like training to stay fit and to stay like mentally healthy, and like doing a tiny bit of like circus training on those tours as well. Just like learning how to manage that time and still do what I needed to do to perform. And then also similar to those points is being at those big festivals meant that we had the opportunity to see so many other shows, and I'm sure I've got some footage and stuff, I'll put some up here. It was so incredible to see so many other shows, especially over in Edinburgh. We got to see so many other people that we like wouldn't have been able to have seen, and especially the comedy shows in particular. Seeing those shows was really good because it meant that I was able to like see what kind of content they were like doing in their clowning shows or like just their comedy shows, and sort of analysing what kind of jokes were getting the audience to laugh and then what kind of jokes were like flopping or like not getting a reaction out of the audience. So that was also really good for sort of like seeing other shows and kind of like deconstructing and seeing how they were like working for them. So that was really cool over the last couple years. So that's kind of it for these points. I hope this video was enjoyable for you guys. If you did enjoy this video and you want to see more stuff like it about circus life, I'll put the playlist up in the cards so you can watch all of them and you can enjoy them. If you did like it, please give it a like or let me know down in the comments, or if you have any ideas about like circus life stuff that you want to see in a video, let me know down in the comments because I love hearing from you guys. And as always, if you want to see more, consider subscribing, and also it really supports my channel with the YouTube algorithm. And the little notification bell if you want to be notified anytime I upload a new video, which is usually once a week on Sundays or Mondays. And I will see you guys next time. Bye! Yeah, so don't worry about that. That was random. Boop. Like a little pause. A little boop.